Hey, I'm not usually one to dabble in political opinions because I don't feel qualified. But if you keep avoiding getting involved because you're not enough of an expert, then you have a pretty limited impact and you're probably never going to grow in your ability to take action if you just sort of sit on the sidelines and wait for some kind of invitation to express yourself. So I just want to talk about only one aspect, which, as you probably gather if you follow me, is something that is quite dear to me: the issue of animal suffering. In Canada, our animals are not considered sentient beings. They're considered property. So there is no laws to protect them from real abuse and cruelty, whether that's in agriculture or cosmetic testing or companion animals, etc. And we're really behind if you look at other countries in terms of the export of live animals, of horses, of the protections we have for livestock, by which I mean animals that are raised to be killed for their food byproducts. We have less protections than Europe, and we practice things that are banned, like in Germany, like chick culling, killing the male chicks in the production of eggs. So our impression of Canada as this really well-meaning and kind and gentle country does not apply when it comes to animals. And that's my dog making noise in the background. And this is a really good time to voice your concerns about that to your local representatives who want your vote. I know some of you have already voted, but some of you still haven't. And today, my aunt, who is vegan or mostly vegan, sent some emails to her local representatives, the Conservatives and the Liberals, and mentioned her different concerns about the causes that she wants to see furthered to protect animal well-being. And that sounds like such a joke. I mean, really, it's just to minimize the gruesome suffering that they experience in so many different industries and conditions. So she wrote today, and she got an answer quickly. I think these representatives and these politicians are eager to please when the election is coming up so close, and they're going to be more responsive than when they have power for a couple of years. And I saw a debate last night about animal welfare hosted by the representatives of the NDP, the Liberal Party, and the Green Party. And just to be clear, the Conservatives and the Bloc Québécois were also invited and did not attend. They did not send somebody. I'm sure they don't want to alienate their animal farmers in the West. This is what I'm assuming. Bloc Québécois just probably doesn't care. And just for your information, the only person there of the three speakers who was vegan was the Liberal representative, Nathaniel. I can't remember his last name. It's in my stories. So this event was hosted by the Animal Justice Organization, who actually take legal actions. They're a very informed organization. You should follow them and subscribe to their mailing list. And each representative had some good things to say, and what I was happy to hear is that they apparently are working together across party lines on some of the key issues when it comes to animal welfare. The NDP representative seemed much more concerned with regenerative agriculture and changing farming practices, and the liberal representatives seemed much more concerned with changing the dietary recommendations in the food guide to make a more plant-based approach, which could then have effects on, you know, what's eaten in schools and that kind of thing. It would change people's dietary habits in that way. A lot of the people on the chat were not happy that Elizabeth May, having led the Green Party for so long, was not vegan due to the ecological ramifications of meat production. So I think that was disappointing to a lot of people. But she did have some really valid suggestions about the importance of putting it into the criminal code, that when an animal is mistreated, shown cruelty or abuse, that it be something that can be prosecuted, and hence they need to be named sentient beings rather than property. So I do think that I agree with her that that is probably the main thing I would focus on, because that covers a lot of different areas. That covers the scientific testing, it covers entertainment animals, it covers domestic animals and agriculture. You know, despite the fact that the Liberal candidate was definitely the most popular in that debate because he was actually very actively vegan and is his wife, and they have been for a long time, and they've been actively engaged. My own animal's getting jealous that I'm not giving her attention. It's time for her walk. I just ask that you, first of all, follow some of the accounts that I share from a lot, like the Animal Justice Organization, the Save Movement, and actually just see for yourself what is happening in these different industries, and just redirect some of that energy that you have and love that you have for your pets. You know, a couple of years ago, there was this video of this like spiritual influencer or like some kind of personal development coach. She posted a video of her talking, and then she like shoved her dog away, and she was canceled. And this huge fuss was made about it, and it's so absurd to me. Not that I believe you should shove your dog, but it's like the amount of love and attention and obsession that we have with our pets, and we treat them like the kings and queens of the universe, and then we have complete disregard for other animals of the same level of sensitivity and intelligence, just because it's more it's easy to fit in by just eating everything and not having to say that you don't want to eat this, you don't want to look maybe pretentious, or you don't want to look righteous, or you just don't want to bother revising your palate preferences. If you just directed some of that love that you feel for your pet and applied it to the animals that are unseen in what you are purchasing with your dollar, it would change our world really profoundly. And I think it is deeply traumatic to know how much suffering is happening, that we consider ourselves a woke culture and that we just mostly ignore. You know, like when the wildfires happen in Australia, and it's like all these millions of animals are dying, and it's this like really deeply traumatic event. Well, what about the 70 billion baby male chicks that are dying from the egg industry because they are not going to be used as hens? And then when we buy free range eggs, like I wrote Valens Farm and I asked them about the free range conditions, and okay, they have better conditions than industrial farms for sure. It's better than nothing, but they purchase their hens from another provider. Do those people practice chick culling? There's no transparency about that. There's no transparency about how they're killed. So I do think there's a deep level of hypocrisy because we don't really want to face the truth behind our choices, and it is overwhelming. And I follow a lot of these, you know, animal activism accounts, and I am re-traumatized every day. Like, it makes me very sad and very troubled and feel very helpless and overwhelmed. And all I can do are things like this to just try and spread awareness. And what I want to start doing more, instead of just sharing on social media, I want to start writing my representatives and people in government and pushing and showing them that these agendas are important to their citizens, so that they start to wake up and actually take these things seriously. There's absolutely no reason why there shouldn't be progress on these levels. If veganism is increasingly popular, I don't even believe that that meat industries have to die out completely. If they were controlled and there was a certain guidelines of practice, maybe the image could be salvaged, at least for a small group of people that really feel it's important for them to have those products in their diet. We just need to make reforms. Like, going vegan is not the only answer, because not everyone is going to go vegan. And so unless there's reforms in how these industries are managed and surveyed and investigated, then an unthinkable number of animals are going to continue to suffer and be treated like their lives are just treated as just nonsensical waste. There's just no value put on their lives. I mean, I shared a video last week of these baby goats that are in a crate together, and the guy is stun gunning them in front of each other in the head and then throwing them into a dumpster, and because they're not going to be used for goat cheese. And when you actually see that as an image, it's troubling to anyone. You see these cute little baby goats and they're treated like a plastic straw, and the people are so much concerned about plastic straws in the ocean. It's like, yes, has an effect on sea life, but it's just that there's a lack of proportionality of where people are putting their concern over these issues and ethics. And the practices that are mainstream in Canada in agriculture are the stuff that nightmares are made of. And we're focused on these like little things like straws, or like one dog that's in a kill shelter that's going to be killed. It's like, that's one dog. What about the billions of baby calves that are taken from their mothers at birth and left to die? And either they're left to die, either they're shot at birth, or they're completely on their own for the first few months of life without their mothers, complete isolation, which is, can you imagine how traumatic that is? And then they're sold to the veal industry, and the healthier ones live until maximum of 8 months and are killed for veal, and the other ones are just killed as waste. This is not like considered an inhumane practice or a wasteful practice, a waste of life in our government or any other government. This is just standard practice. So just like pick one or two issues that are important to you, write your local representative, write whoever you can think of. I'm not an expert in this, but I'm going to do my best to try and figure out at least the people I want to vote for locally, or the people I'm thinking of voting for, or maybe even the people I don't want to vote for, and ask them to address some of these issues and follow some of these pages. Doesn't mean you have to go vegan tomorrow, but at least understand the truth behind what you're doing, and it's going to make the choice for you. Because I used to think it would be impossible to do mostly vegan, and even though I've done it very gradually, I still eat fish and seafood. I'm not perfect. I'll sometimes eat meat from an ethical butcher. I find that the choice makes itself, because it's so, when I see a product that comes from a place where there's obviously no scrutiny into the practices, like if you're not going to an ethical butcher like Lawrence, that are buying from these special farms, and you're buying like a faux soup in a restaurant, there's no way that they're buying from permaculture ethical farms. And I think about the suffering of the animals, and it makes me sad, and it feels gross, and hence I don't want to eat it. It's really not much more complicated than that. So instead of trying to make like some moralistic judgment and think that you need to identify with this, whatever the stupid stereotypes are about being vegan, just inform yourself, look at what's actually happening on these farms, ask questions like, where do fur trims come from? What are wool farm conditions like? Just look into it, and you will find the answers right there. And I guarantee you'll find it troubling. And it does make a difference when you write politicians who want your votes, and you express these things. When you put in the time, they'll understand there's more people like you. And even if it's just for their selfish interests, at least it'll move these causes forward. Thank you for listening.